Success. Finally. Was able to get the CV joint off. Not without quite a bit of thinking about it and trying. Ended up coming right off. And part of the problem was you can't really just pull direct pulling pressure on it unless you put a ton of pressure on it. And even with that, it's possible that's not going to want to come off. To get that little snap ring, that little retaining ring to pop in and release, you've got to actually push in and then pull out. So the slide hammer was the best way to do it. The problem was that these dust shields, this is the remainder of one of them, they were so bent up from previous tries of removing it that they weren't allowing the CV joint to move inward any before giving it a good pull. The other problem I had was the slide puller that I rented was just a generic puller, and with everything that came in the kit, nothing would really hold on well. So what I ended up doing was I cleaned it up really well and found out that if you remove this snap ring that goes right in there, you can get the internal part of the CV joint out. Once you get that out, I slid that over the end of my puller, put a nut on the end of it to hold it on, reinsert it back into here, reinstall the clip. Now I've got a good secure connection so that when I pull, it doesn't want to just pop off like with the pulling jaws, the problem I was having with the pulling jaws. And one good smack and it popped right off. And then what I expected was this to be a spline shaft, and instead it's actually a female end. And when I took the other one apart and cleaned it up, the one that had fallen apart, I had found this cap on the inside. This is actually a cap inside here, was popped off. And when the cap is popped off, it actually exposes the end of the shaft, which has a dimple in it for a puller. So I'm guessing another way to get these out might be as simple as removing that cap inside there. You can see it on that. Well, this one's already off. Cap is off. And putting a puller on here. Gear type puller. But I'm going to just pull this one off the same way I took the other one off, because it worked so well. And then the other problem I had, of course, is especially now that it's out of the vehicle, it's out of the quad, keeping this thing secure was kind of a trick. So what I did there was I've actually got it set up here on my backhoe, and it's on the loader arms of the backhoe. And what I do is I take this red ratcheting tie down strap, I wrap it around there and I secure it really well to the arm so that when I pull on it, it doesn't want to just fall off and roll onto the ground. So now we'll give it a pull. Well, I'll set it up first, I'll show you that. Alright, so now I've got the front bevel gear assembly strapped down tightly, wedged in there, so that when I pull and this releases, that won't just fall down on the ground, or worse yet, hit something and break. Now I take the inside CV joint, inside parts to the CV joint, and insert them. I'm going to insert that in there and then install the clip. Now with the clip reinstalled, you can see I have a good secure connection with the slide hammer. And what I want to do is I want to push in, tap in a little bit, make sure that's fully in, and then I'm going to put the camera down and give it a good pull. Oh, epic fail. After a few sharp pulls, it didn't want to come out, and I pulled on it too hard and actually completely deformed the clip and pulled it right out and sent the ball bearings flying. So I've got to go find those now. Well, good news is only 2 of the ball bearings fell out, and I found those pretty easily. And doesn't look like I've cracked this, but that ring is toast. So now the dilemma is, do I want to take the ring from the other side and try that again, or do I want to try and put a puller on this one? Since the internal cap is already missing on this one, I can see the end of the shaft with the dimple on it. Alright, well, I decided against my better judgment to put the other one in there and put the other clip in and try it again. After 3 good solid pulls, tapping in first to make sure it's fully in and then pulling out, it still wouldn't budge. And rather than run the risk of completely mangling this other clip, I'm going to go to plan B and try and put a puller on there and see what will happen. The reason why I don't want to ruin this clip is because it's going to be much easier for me to replace the one that I did destroy if I go to the shop and I say, hey, I need one of these, the same exact size, as opposed to showing up and saying, hey, I need one of these. Since I was able to get this side off with the puller, as soon as I took that side off, it was real easy to remove the cover and expose the differential unit inside there. The oil, there wasn't much oil in there, and what oil was in there was clearly heavily contaminated with water. It's got that telltale smell and look to it. Looks kind of like what the oil looks like in an outdrive on an outboard if it's contaminated. And that's exactly what this stuff looks like. So, and then you get this big gear. You can see that bearing in there. Basically, the rebuild kits that you can buy for these contain the bearings, and I'm assuming it probably comes with the O-ring. That's the other thing too. This O-ring is just falling apart. It's completely rotted, just little chunks. So it probably explains where all the oil that was supposed to be in there went. This little thing here kind of acts like an expansion chamber, I guess. It's got holes all through it. That actually attaches right here. So when you're going through the water and you're sinking the axle in the water, if this thing's got holes in it, of course water's just going to get all inside that case. Here you can see that cap I was talking about earlier. This one's still in place. That one was just rolling around inside there loose, had popped off, exposing the end of the shaft where you can actually get that gear puller on, I'm hoping. And the other thing to notice is that the grease in here is pretty decent. The grease in there is disgusting. It's almost like the consistency of earwax. And I had heard that sometimes if you don't properly clean these out and put replacement grease in, the two greases may not be compatible and turn into this goopy sludge material, which is what I believe happened on this side. Just thought I'd show this. The other day when I was trying to get that CV joint out, I secured it to the backhoe, and then I wrapped my come-along cable to it, and then I hooked the cable up to the back of my Dodge pickup and decided I was going to just try and jerk it out with that, and actually was able to snap this cable, to give you an idea how much force I put on that without it budging. So much for that. And then as far as removing this with the puller, like I planned on doing, I got a couple of different styles of pullers. I got a 2-jaw, I got a 3-jaw, and I've got an even larger 3-jaw. And none of those will grab onto the shoulder on this inner CV joint. It's too rounded and it doesn't have enough of a flat spot to grab onto. So I'm just tired of messing with that. So now, since I've now got the assembly partially disassembled, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig up some blocks so I could sit this on some blocks and actually put a drift pin down there. I've got a couple of different things I can stick in there to pound on and try and knock the shaft out that way. Alright, so I'll set it up on a couple of blocks, and I got, this is one of my many bits that I leave for just such an occasion, pounding on something. Well, after several blows with a good sized ball peen hammer and no luck, I'm going to give it a shot with a maul. I broke the handle on my sledgehammer and never got around to fixing it, so I'm going to just use the back of this maul and see if we can't knock it out. These are 3 shims that actually go right here. They slide over this gear and are in there. And I just want to make sure that I put those back in right where they go. So obviously the fact that there's 3 of those shims must be a pretty critical dimension, the thickness of those. And since I'm not going to be changing the gears, it should all go back together with these shims and it should be okay. Well, I've pounded on this now for a few minutes, even with a large maul, and it's still not budging. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to an automotive machine shop that I know of and see if they can't put this in a press, a hydraulic press, and press that out. Okay, back from the garage, and guys helped me out down there. They only charged me 15 bucks for a little bit of shop time. They put it in their 20-ton press, and we're able to push this out. So now have the inner CV joint off. The little ring that was in here, little snap ring that was in here, it actually came out in pieces and was all chewed up. So something had happened, that it had gotten wedged in there, and that's why it was on there so tight. You actually see this, actually still some lubricant on the splines, and it's not rusted, so that was just a bad luck the way that that happened to be stuck in there. Might have been something that I did when I initially was pulling on it with just a straight pulling force. I may have actually forced that to get stuck in there somehow. Who knows? Anyways, important thing is, got that out.